Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello everyone, welcome to this new episode, and today we're going to talk about the country Argentina. And as we know, Argentina is one of the richest countries in the world years ago, but now it is a country that over the years has had big problems in its economy. Most of these problems are in the debts and the instability of its currency. Despite decades of high inflation and currency erosion, it has not been able to find a solution to the economic crisis, which is why it is an interesting country to analyze. And it has suffered a series of ups and downs in its economy, and it has suffered an average annual inflation of 105% and changed its currency 5 times. And in this episode, we're going to explain different news and recent data about Argentina and the changes that it has, and especially thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. So stay tuned for more. Today in the show, we're going to have a few guests that are going to explain to us the tariffs and non-tariff barriers, the industry with first move advantage, all the situation with the COVID-19, and many other interesting topics. So now I'm going to pass the floor to my special guest, Carla Mendoza. Carla, we're going to go with you.
Thank you, Wendy. Now we'll talk about some news of imports and export trends, also about tariffs and non-tariff barriers in the country. On this first capsule, we'll talk a little about the most recent report in the trade balance in Argentina, especially in the month of April, based on the data of the National Institute of Statistics and Census.
In April of this year, exports reached over $6 million. This was the highest level since August 2014, and imports more than $4 million. The commercial exchange, that is the exports plus imports, reached an amount of more than $10 million, and the trade balance, which is the difference between the monetary value of a country's imports and exports, had a surplus of $1.47 million, the highest value since July 2020. Argentina's main trading partners are the Mercosur countries, but Brazil is the main trading partner for both imports and exports, followed by China, United States, India, Vietnam, Chile, and Egypt during this year. These countries represented the 53.7% of total external sales and 71.7% of total purchases.
Despite the critical moments that Argentina had during last year, there has been an improvement in the commercial trade, and even more is expected in the coming months. Now about the topic of tariffs and non-tariff barrier, the most recent news is that Mariano Castelboin, Argentine ambassador of Mercosur, spoke in favor of a new common external tariff to promote the productive development in Argentina. He says that the regional bloc needs a new common external tariff that adjusts to the current productive characteristics.
According to the economist Krugman, the approach in terms of trade, tariffs on imports from the rest of the world should increase after the formation of a regional bloc. That is the case of the Mercosur, because if the members tend to import similar goods, then the creation of a bloc larger will lead to higher tariffs as market power increases in international markets. The ambassador mentions that this rate has not been given priority since its creation, so it is necessary to create a change that can benefit the country's economy. His proposal seeks to generate a gradual growth in the level of added value where there is productive capacity in the region, without making tariff reductions that will still be applied to goods and services that need to be imported for competitive production.
Thank you so much, Carla. Now I would like to talk about the industry with first mover advantage. We're going to talk about the news about the Blue Sky sees the first mover advantage in Argentina with uranium and vanadium market. Blue Sky, which owns the Armadillo Grande Uranium Vanadium Project AGP in Rio Negro, Argentina, expects to take advantage as uranium prices continue to recover. The IGP has sourced about 22.7 billion pounds of uranium and 28 million pounds of vanadium, and CACOS expects Blue Sky to have significant first-mover advantage as Argentina has a reasonable, well-developed nuclear energy sector but does not produce uranium. Argentina has 3 nuclear reactors that are active and producing. There's another one under construction, and there is one more in planning stage. Domestic law mandates that any domestic production of uranium has preference. The plant will be required to buy uranium from domestic source, and right now there is no other domestic resource. Meanwhile, the AGP also has substantial vanadium resource, which may also provide Blue Sky with a first mover advantage. Intensively in Argentina, there's a huge need of vanadium, Cacos notes, explaining that it's primarily used as a steel hardener, and the Argentina's burgeoning oil and industry, its subsequent steel demands, present a considerable market opportunity. Moreover, he explains that the vanadium prices have also been increasing following China's mandates to increase vanadium used in the steel manufacturing sector. In this interview, Cacos also points out that the Blue Sky has launched an extended exploration program on the IGP. The program is expected to last 6 months, and the company expecting to begin in permits and engineering process in the late 2019 or early 2020. We have an uranium deposit at Ivana, which has resource of about 11 million pounds, and it's over 3 kilometers and 3 kilometers area. By properly packaging covers an entire district, which has a strike length about 145 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide. The work we have done over the last few years shows that there are uranium occurrences throughout the entire district. Moving along with the industrial policy topic, we would like to talk about the Argentina expects more than 6% growth in the industrial output in 2021. Argentina's industrial output should grow more than 6% this year versus 2021 as Latin America number 3 economy rebounds from the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister of Development and Production Matias Koflas told reported on Monday, he said he expected Argentina's economy as a whole to expand 5% to 6% during the year. Based on preliminary data and depending on how the novel coronavirus evolved and its impact on growth. The latest poll of economists by the central bank show expectation of 6.2 economic growth in 2021. The economy contracted 10% last year. The change in industrial policy has allowed growth in production and the employment and rate above the pre-pandemic period. Koflas told reporters during a trip to Toyota automobile plant in Buenos Aires. Automotive production in the country fell 80.3% last year. According to the Association of Automotive Manufacturers, the economy has been in recession since 2018. The government shut down swaths of the industrial sector about a year ago in reaction to the pandemic. Many restrictions have been lifted in recent months. Industrial output fell 7.6% in 2020, following a contraction of 6.3% in 2019. Moving along with the topics that we're going to talk about in this episode, we would like to talk about now the dispute settlement process and the currency exchange rate and exchange rate trends that it has in Argentina nowadays.
Good afternoon, this is your presenter Ricardo Pastrana, and today we will talk about anti-dumping and countervailing measures on biodiesel from Argentina. The following communication dated 29 November 2018 from the delegation of Argentina to the delegation of Peru is circulated to the dispute settlement body in accordance with the Article 4.4 of the DCU. Article 6.5 of the Anti-Dumping Agreement and Article 12.4 of the SEM agreement, because the information which was by nature confidential and which was provided on a confidential basis by the parties was not treated as such by Peru and was disclosed without specific permission of those parties. Peru's measures appear to nullify or impair the benefits accruing to Argentina directly or indirectly under the cited agreements. Argentina reserves the rights to address during the course of the consultations for their factual claims and legal issues under other provisions of the WTO agreement regarding above matters, including any amended, replacement, extension, implementation measures, or other related measures. Argentina looks forward to Peru's response to this request with a view to agreeing a mutually convenient date. In other news, nobody wants pesos. Argentine currency meltdown opens business. Argentina battles to control its currency suspending South America's second largest economy, wreaking havoc on everything from household finances to the production and sale of common goods. Measures including taxing some greenback purchase and demands that some companies restructure their dollar-denominated debts have misfired, propelling the gap between the official and the black market exchange rates to the widest since 1989, while failing to boost international reserves. Some analysts warn alleged devaluation may be on the horizon despite President Alberto Fernandez's public opposition to the idea. Controls on the peso and increasing money printing are adding to the coronavirus pandemic and amplifying existing economic problems such as the 3-year recessions and one of Latin America's fastest inflation rates. All were starting memories of past crises.
And now we're going to welcome our final guest, whose name is Santiago. And Santiago is going to talk about all the COVID situation in Argentina and the international trade that is going to face in this year.
Thank you, Wendy. So, we know that Argentina is one of the largest economies in Latin America. However, the instability in economic growth has not allowed the development of the country. During the pandemic, economic activity in Argentina was very difficult to manage. In 2020, 143,000 small and medium-sized businesses were unable to pay salaries and fixed expenses, even with the help from the government. Also, 35,000 companies considered closing their businesses. In 2020, the GDP represented a fall of 9.9%, a situation that had not been seen since 2002. The national economy continues to be unstable in macroeconomic terms, and annual inflation due to the fall in economic activity reached 36% in 2020, despite price controls. The World Bank is a long-term strategic partner of Argentina through the Country Partnership Framework, the CPF, which is the central of administration and the board to review and guide the country's programs and measure their effectiveness. By 2022, it seeks to collaborate to reduce poverty by promoting sustainable growth. These are some of the strategies that can be proposed to improve the economic crisis that the country has suffered. Number one would be creation of long-term private financing sources, promoting productivity growth and increasing exports. Number two, develop the local capital market and the activation of investment financing. Number three, improve the administration of the public sector, such as basic public services, invest more in the education sector, and improve the health system that is now more than ever necessary. And finally, number four would be reduce the impact of climate change, implementing renewable energy and adopting smart practices in different economic sectors, such as agriculture. Argentina is a great country, and we hope that it will recover from this fall and the economy to stabilize. With this, back to the studio.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this episode, and we're going to see you next time. Goodbye.
Audio Jungle.